It's Monday. It's another edition of the Zogby Report, real and unscripted, just like this presidential campaign, real and unscripted, unfolding before our very eyes as the rest of us try to catch up with it. We have 3.5 more months to go, and believe me, barring the unforeseen, will dominate the next 3.5 months, just as it has the last year or so. We've had so much history in the making. So, Jarrett, it's Kamala. It is Kamala, too, despite some talk about an open convention, something that would have made, I think, a lot of sense 10 days ago. It's late. You know, there's 104, 105 days to go. Democrats need to establish unity, need to settle on a candidate, get moving, and get her known. And so what do we know about the process? What we think about the process is that the decision for Biden to leave was probably made a while ago. It was a question then of getting through, as we've mentioned before, the NATO summit, and then the GOP convention. Wasted a couple of weeks, but at least instead of cutting in to Trump's time, which I think would have made an awful lot of sense, the Biden folks decided to let's get the plan in order and get the word out about Kamala. High risk, but now she's apparently doing her job, which is to contact as many, if not every, delegate she can, because those delegates now have to pledge themselves to her nomination. Contacting state party leaders, it looks like many of them are coming in unsolicited, and the donations, I don't have a figure yet, it's still too new, but it looks like the donations are coming in. There's a lot more to say, but for now, polling just prior to the president's announcement, up till, say, last Friday or so, showed that Vice President Harris was within 1.7 points of Donald Trump, at the same time that President Biden was 3 points behind Donald Trump. Bottom line is, you know, those are both within the margin of error, but it appears that the vice president was not either an albatross on the campaign as VP or brings in, early baggage into the campaign. I suspect she will be in good shape by midweek when the first polls come out. What do you think?
Well, I have a lot to think about. One thing where we definitely agree, and I said this 2 podcasts ago, is, you know, I had a very strong sense following June 27th and the way that unfolded and the inter-party fighting that inevitably ensued, that what we were looking at was an explosive summer. That, you know, even before the 4th of July or just after the 4th of July, fireworks is a thing. I strongly felt, and I pointed out, that it will be like fireworks. It will be explosive. And sure enough, the inter-party fighting and the call for Joe to go was explosive. Who came out in the ranks and said what they said and said what they didn't say. Prime example, Nancy Pelosi was explosive. Of course, Butler, Pennsylvania, quite literally was explosive. The momentum going into the RNC was a little bit explosive. And then, of course, this news, which we were expecting, which many were waiting for, nonetheless explosive. There are some interesting factors, though, in what was said. You could say I'm reading too much into this, but when the brother of Joe Biden said that we'll enjoy our last days with him, and that, you know, his health and ailing health was an issue, that is pretty interesting. That's not interesting, but it's, you know, pretty drastic. Put that aside. You mentioned that Obama has called, and this was released today in Politico, for an open process. Meanwhile, Hillary and Bill are throwing their support behind Kamala. I would urge people to read that article. Google Politico, Obama, open process. It's just out today. I find it very intriguing. Here's the thing. Yes, this race is tight. We saw that even after the debacle of a debate with Joe Biden. We saw in poll after poll and many polls that the needle didn't move. A lot of the polls were showing that some polls were showing Trump went ahead. A lot of them showed that it was within the margin of error. We saw that when they would test the two-way with Harris. We saw that. We're seeing that. We're probably going to see that now with her in front and center. And she's for the moment is the party choice. But let's not forget that these are two polarizing figures in a polarized environment. And with her talking about, is it going to be Bashir? Is it going to be Shapiro? Is it going to be Whitmer? Of course, we know it can't be Newsom. The 12th Amendment will not allow for both the president and the VP to be from the same state. But I don't think that these are the kind of names that add what is necessary to beat Trump. Now, what we know, this is a competitive race, but we also know that Trump has something going for him with the assassination attempt. And what I mean by that is this is the kind of stuff that plays at the genetic level. Seeing that moment, regardless of what you think about what happened, seeing that footage, even among people who can't stand Trump, even among people who can't stand politics, would admit that it gives the aura of something heroic. And that's the Trump juggernaut, the Trump momentum going forward. Okay, and so there's a lot to go up against that, and I think Harris at the helm of the DNC or as the party nominee with a Bashir, with a Whitmer or a Shapiro, or even a Governor Westmore goes nowhere. It does not move the needle. It is not something that the Democrats can be confident in. So to bring this conversation full circle, I'm trying to look into what it really means that Obama is calling for an open process. And I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's too late. The party what the party needs is a jolt. They need a jolt of excitement. And I don't know that Harris brings that, Harris with the other names that are being talked about, because come debate day, and when the spotlight is on her, Kamala, we have to be honest, is not an impressive figure.
Okay, I'm going to disagree. I think she brings a lot to the ticket. I may not have thought that, a couple of months ago, but the most important thing that she brings to the ticket right now is an end to the age and capacity issue. She has been a successful San Francisco district attorney. She's been controversial, but still successful twice running California Attorney General. She was elected in a landslide to the United States Senate. And then, of course, she was on the ticket and the vice president of the United States. She takes the age issue right off the table and, in fact, has the potential to turn the age issue around to focus on Donald Trump and his capacity. Secondly, I don't think that she automatically brings suburban women. She automatically brings African American, particularly African American women. Her experience is, far different than the average suburban women, or for that matter, African American woman. Nonetheless, she's a fresh face. Even though she's been around for a while, she can talk the talk. A liability, is When Eisenhower was president, there was trouble in South America. He sent his vice president down to South America. When Nixon was president and there was problems in South America, he sent Nelson Rockefeller, who was a thorn in his side. President gave her a very difficult assignment dealing with the border issue. She's been roundly condemned for it. The border will be an issue, and she's the lightning rod there. Nonetheless, she has the capacity to rally Democrats and rally independents and rally suburban women and liberals who care deeply about the abortion issue. And I don't care if abortion is fourth, fifth, sixth on the list of priority issues for voters. It's important to liberals and to women. For that matter, she generates a lot of enthusiasm. She's been the spokesperson on that issue and has her creds on that issue. So I think on balance, you're going to see her get a bump midweek. I think you're going to see her get a bump when she names her vice president because it's new and fresh. And she's going to get a bump when during the convention. I do want to talk about the choices, but I'll come back after you have a few more comments, and then I'll come back and talk about the choices available to her.
Yeah, I think and this is a general perception, so I'm not going to direct this at you like this is an attack, and it's not an attack, but it's a response. Is that I think the bar is being set too low for the Democrats. I mean, we're saying, well, she won the Senate race. She won the Senate race in a landslide. Well, she won it in her home state of California. I can't remember who the contender was, but I don't think that necessarily translates to something bringing to the table to go up against Trump. Trump is not an easy person to campaign against, especially in the battleground states where he has an amazing ground game and he has a big following in a lot of places that he goes. I don't think that the age thing is I think that's setting the bar too low. I think when we say that, well, she's younger, I don't think that there's really much to that. I think what that reflects is that we have a party with too many septuagenarians and too many octogenarians, and to immediately say that that's a virtue, I think is hollow. I think to say that she's going to drive.
Be careful there. Be very careful there. Okay.
Sure, but I mean, I'm seriously though. I mean, regardless of age, that's not a virtue. In it of itself, wisdom, experience, a different story. But abortion, okay, the culture wars are raging. The culture wars are important, but hey, are we looking down the barrel of a global war here? Israel just attacked the Houthis in Yemen. We're an inch away from Israel unloading on Hezbollah. Hezbollah has already unloaded on them. There's Iran, there's Russia and Ukraine, there's China and Taiwan. There's a looming banking crisis, a software glitch that called CrowdStrike just created the world's largest IT global outage in the history of the digital age. And I don't think, look, abortion is important, but I think we have many bigger things on our plate for voters to consider. And I think when the limelight goes on Kamala, what you see, and look, this isn't me saying this. This is a popular meme that is floating around on YouTube, where the parallels between Kamala and Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Veep are uncanny. When they take examples of some of the things that a lot of things that Kamala has said, whether on TV or giving speeches, there's not a lot of substance there. And that's not a personal attack. That's me being objective and saying that I don't know if the Democrats are necessarily in a secure spot to beat one of the toughest campaigners that's around. So they may want to really reconsider. And you can go through that list, but I don't know that that list of people bring anything to the table to move the needle.
When it comes to choosing VPs, either you choose someone who can deliver a state, deliver a side or an issue, deliver an image, as in Bill Clinton choosing Al Gore. Neighboring states, and Gore certainly not in a position to win Tennessee, but the image of two, at that time, youthful baby boomers against the two oldest men who had been president, really worked. In this instance, I think what a VP does is brings not only the potential for a battleground state and a potential for a modulated tone, but also executive experience. And so, in that sense, no surprises here. I think Gretchen Whitmer would be at the top of the list. She's won Michigan. She's won it handily. And this is after a controversial first term that the right didn't like, but she turned around and won it big, beat a MAGA candidate. I think her drawback, to be very honest, is that she's a woman. And I don't know that Democrats are ready to pose two women on the ticket. I think Josh Shapiro, I'll be very honest about it. He was Attorney General for a while, very popular, won against the MAGA candidate 2 years ago, but he's been governor just 2 years, and quite frankly, he is Jewish. And I don't know if the Democrats are bold enough to do this real ethnic thing, an Asian American, an African American, a Jewish American. That's kind of a lot, perhaps. Although I understand that he's quite a fine gentleman and a good governor. Tops on my list would be Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, won twice in Scarlet Red, Kentucky, the same state that brings to you Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. But those two win in landslides when they run statewide. Andy Beshear wins and wins handily twice now. But he brings executive experience, some youth, and very importantly, the ability to cross the aisle and to work with the other side. I think also good juxtaposition against a J.D. Vance, who has actually served at nothing, has run nothing except a business, and is 39 years old with no government, or for that matter, at this point, real legislative experience. So those are my top picks. I think, frankly, those are everybody's top picks. There's Roy Cooper in North Carolina as well, who's certainly worth mentioning.
Well, I'll just end on this note. I think that when it comes down to it, I think a major decision makers are going to be the big donors. And the big donors are looking at polls. We know that. Who are they seeing in the polls that can beat that ticket? And that's who they are going to throw their money behind. And I suspect that the polls, these private internal polls, are showing probably more than the list of characters that are being talked about. And whoever they decide to throw their weight behind is probably who is going to be the choice. But I do have to come back and say that I do have to raise the question, when that political article came out with Obama calling for an open process, I would ask the question, how much pull, how much power does he have in the DNC? And would he just say that without really wanting an open process to take place? Would he be ignored? I seem to think that Barack has a lot of pull in the DNC, but I guess we'll see.
Only in a couple of sentences, I like the idea of an open process, totally open process, with even Biden going so far to say, I endorse Kamala for president, but I want an open convention and let her earn it. But I think at this point in time, it's late. I think she's going out and she's earning it. And I'm not hearing any other candidate. For a few minutes, Joe Manchin was going to rejoin the Democratic Party and challenge, and then good sense came to him, and he decided he didn't have a prayer. So I think the open process here is the process of Kamala Harris and her team reaching out delegate by delegate, donor by donor, state chair by state chair, in a very transparent way to earn the nomination. And that's all I got to say.
All right, well, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.